What if a US aircraft carrier fought the Chinese Navy at the Battle of the Yalu River? On September 17, 1894, two modern fleets met in the Yellow Sea near the mouth of the Yalu River, and what happened in the next 5 hours rewrote the map of East Asia for the next 50 years. China's Beiyang fleet was supposed to be one of the most powerful naval forces in Asia. It had steel warships, steam engines, real naval guns purchased from Germany and Britain at enormous cost. It had two German-built ironclad battleships, the Dingyuan and Zhenyuan, considered among the most heavily armoured warships in Asia at the time. On paper, the Beiyang fleet was a modern navy. The Japanese combined fleet had 12 warships, no ironclad battleships, and lighter guns across the board. Japan destroyed most of the Beiyang fleet in 5 hours, and in doing so, announced to every power in the world, Britain, Russia, France, the United States, that Asia had a new dominant force that nobody had taken seriously until that afternoon. But what if the US Theodore Roosevelt appeared in the Yellow Sea on the morning of September 17, 1894, and had to decide what to do about a battle already in progress between two real steel navies with real guns? This matchup is different from every other entry in this series. The Beiyang fleet wasn't ancient, it wasn't primitive. It was a 19th century modern navy, and that distinction matters enormously for understanding why this scenario is the most genuinely complicated one we've looked at. The fleet had 14 warships, including two German-built ironclad battleships, the Dingyuan and Zhenyuan, each displacing over 7,000 tons, armoured with steel plate up to 14 inches thick in places, and carrying four 12-inch guns capable of firing shells that could damage even a well-armoured modern vessel at close range. These weren't bronze cannons. These were real 19th century naval artillery firing explosive shells, with trained crews who had practiced gunnery drills for years. The fleet's commander, Admiral Ding Ruchang, was a cavalry officer by background rather than a naval specialist, a fact that historians have noted as a significant disadvantage in the battle that followed. But his captains and their German-trained crews were genuine naval professionals by the standards of their era. The Beiyang fleet's problems were institutional rather than material. Ammunition supplies were reportedly compromised, some shells packed with insufficient powder, a consequence of corruption in the procurement system. The fleet's tactical doctrine was defensive rather than offensive. It was built around protecting troop transports rather than seeking fleet engagements. And crucially, the fleet's ships had significantly different speeds, making coordinated maneuvering under fire extremely difficult. But here is what makes this scenario uniquely interesting. The Beiyang fleet's guns can actually hurt a modern ship if they get close enough, not sink a carrier, but damage it in ways that a Mongol archer or a Roman catapult simply cannot. This is the first scenario in this entire series where the ancient side has weapons that bear any genuine relationship to the threat spectrum a modern warship is designed to handle. The Roosevelt CVN-71 is a Nimitz-class nuclear carrier, the most capable warship on Earth in any era before it was built. 1,092 feet long, 97,000 tons, 75 aircraft, 6,000 crew, nuclear-powered. Its radar systems can track every ship in the Yellow Sea simultaneously. Its FA-18 Super Hornets fly at Mach 1.8 and carry precision munitions that can hit a specific gun turret on a specific ship from 20 miles away. Its Phalanx Sears fires 4,500 rounds per minute and exists specifically to destroy incoming projectiles. Against the Beiyang fleet's 12-inch guns, which fire at a rate of roughly 1 round per minute per barrel, with shells that travel at about 8,800 feet per second and can be tracked visually in flight, the carrier's defensive systems face their easiest possible engagement. A Phalanx system designed to intercept supersonic anti-ship missiles traveling at 200 miles per hour will have no difficulty with 19th century artillery shells moving at a fraction of that speed. But here is where this scenario introduces something no other matchup in this series has. The Roosevelt's captain is looking at a battle between two fleets using steel ships and explosive shells in 1894 within living memory by the standards of naval history, of the era that produced the carrier itself. This is not ancient history. This is recent enough that the captain's grandfather might have read about it in a newspaper. The ethical and strategic weight of intervening is heavier here than in any other scenario we've examined. The captain's real problem isn't tactical, It's the question every carrier captain in this series has faced. Now sharpened to its most acute form, these are real nations with real stakes in a real modern conflict, not ancient empires, not prehistoric tribes. China and Japan in 1894. One intervention changes 20th century Asian history in ways that are genuinely impossible to predict and impossible to undo. The Roosevelt appears in the Yellow Sea at 0600 on September 17, 1894, 3 hours before the historical battle begins. The E-2D is airborne immediately, mapping every contact in the area. The crew identifies two separate fleet formations on a converging course, both composed of steel-hulled steam-powered warships, both flying flags that the ship's intelligence officers identify within minutes. This is not a medieval fleet. Every ship in both formations has a funnel, a steam engine, and naval guns. Several have wireless telegraph equipment though in 1894, that equipment cannot reach the Roosevelt's frequency. Both fleets identify the carrier within 30 minutes, a massive grey structure, unlike anything in any naval recognition guide ever published, holding position between their converging courses. Both fleets slow. Both fleets signal the Roosevelt by flag, the only communication method available. The Roosevelt signalman can read the flags. They respond with a simple message in International Naval Code: identify yourselves. Both fleets respond. The captain now has confirmation of exactly what and who he's looking at. He calls his staff and says 3 words: nobody fires first. The battle begins anyway. The Japanese fleet, under Admiral Ito Yuko, makes a decision that changes everything. Ito is a naval professional of the highest order, one of the architects of the modern Japanese Navy, and his assessment of the situation is characteristically direct. He doesn't know what the grey structure is, but it isn't moving to intercept him, it isn't signalling hostile intent, and his battle plan approved by the Emperor, the result of years of preparation, is not something he's willing to abandon because a strange ship appeared on the horizon. At 0930, the Japanese fleet increases speed and moves to engage the Beiyang fleet on its historical course. Battle begins almost exactly as it did historically, Japanese cruisers targeting the weaker ships on the Chinese flanks, the Chinese fleet's irregular speeds making coordinated maneuvering difficult under fire. The 2 Chinese ironclads absorbing enormous punishment from Japanese guns, while their own return fire proves less accurate than needed. The Roosevelt watches on the E-2D feed. The captain issues a standing order that remains in effect for the next 4 hours: observe only. No weapons, no intervention, no aircraft flight ops except the surveillance Hawkeye already airborne. For 4 hours, a nuclear carrier with enough firepower to end this battle in 11 minutes watches a 19th century naval engagement proceed in real time and does nothing. The moment that forces a decision, at approximately 1400, the situation changes. The Chinese cruiser Jian, her hull breached, taking on water, running low on ammunition turns, and makes a direct ramming charge at the Japanese cruiser Yoshino. A moment of extraordinary individual courage that is one of the most famous incidents of the entire battle. The Juan is sunk before she reaches her target, going down with almost all hands. The Roosevelt's crew watches this happen on the E-2D feed and in direct visual from the bridge. 200 men going into the Yellow Sea in water cold enough to kill in minutes. The captain makes the only decision his training allows in that specific situation, not a combat decision. A maritime rescue decision. 2 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters launch from the Roosevelt's deck, fly to the position of the sinking Yuan, and begin pulling survivors from the water. Both fleets stop firing for approximately 8 minutes. Every sailor on every ship in both fleets watches 2 machines they've never seen hover above the water and pull men from the sea. It is the most silent 8 minutes in the entire battle. Then, the Japanese fleet resumes operations. The Chinese fleet, having watched the carrier pull their sailors from the water, signals the Roosevelt with a single flag message that the ship's log records as, "We see you." The withdrawal of the battle concludes at approximately 1700, historically speaking, with the Beiyang fleet withdrawing to Port Arthur with significant losses, 5 ships sunk. Several others badly damaged. The Japanese fleet, faster and with better tactical coordination, has achieved a decisive victory. The Roosevelt recovers its helicopters. 34 Chinese sailors from the Ziyuan are on the carrier's deck receiving medical treatment. They have no language in common with the crew. They have seen helicopters, a flight deck, aircraft, and medical equipment that won't be invented for another 50 years. Several of them will spend the rest of their lives trying to describe what they saw in accounts that Chinese historians of the period will record and struggle to explain. The captain writes his log entry for September 17, 1894, observed engagement between Chinese and Japanese naval forces. No weapons fired by this vessel. Rescued 34 survivors from sinking Chinese cruiser Zhiyuan. Did not intervene in outcome of engagement. Depart Yellow Sea 1800. He closes the log and doesn't open it again for 3 days. The Roosevelt changed nothing and everything at the same time. The battle outcome was identical to history. Japan won decisively. The Beiyang fleet was broken as a fighting force. The consequences that followed historically, the Treaty of Shimonoseki, the Japanese seizure of Taiwan and influence in Korea, the scramble by Western powers to carve up Chinese territory that followed all proceeded exactly as they did. The carrier didn't alter a single strategic outcome. What it changed was smaller and more human. 34 men who drowned in the Yellow Sea on September 17, 1894, didn't drown. They came home to families who had already been told they were dead. Several of them had grandchildren. What those grandchildren did, who they became, what they changed in the fabric of 20th century China, that's the part of the equation that E2D can't track and the ship's log can't record. This is the scenario where the carrier's restraint was its most important decision. Not because intervening would have been wrong tactically, the Roosevelt could have ended this battle in 11 minutes in either direction, but because in 1894, for the first time in this series, the captain was looking at a conflict between modern nation-states with modern weapons and modern consequences, and the weight of that was different from anything the ship had faced in any other century. The Beiyang fleet wasn't an ancient army that couldn't understand what was killing it. It was a 19th century navy that understood exactly what it was looking at and couldn't do anything about it anyway. That's a different kind of defeat. And the Roosevelt's crew, watching it happen from 40 miles away with the power to stop it and the judgment not to, understood the difference. What if the captain had chosen to intervene on the Chinese side? Would it have changed Japan's rise to power in Asia? What if the Roosevelt had arrived 6 months earlier, before the war even started? Drop it in the comments, I read every single one. That's your 2 a.m. What If. The most powerful carrier ever built, watching one of history's most consequential naval battles from 40 miles away with enough firepower to change everything and choosing not to pull the trigger. Subscribe for a new scenario every week.